they have the Orianna, the Tryndamere, and the Gwen. So those are those hyper carry picks that really can destroy teams single-handedly if they get past the 30-minute mark. Well, this is a huge test for PSG. We have seen Juhan and Bei, but I don't think they've really showcased themselves as being a tempo duo. They actually play pretty slow, and they like to play more of a side lane style. We've seen the Rise and Lee Sin kind of go for two-man ganks elsewhere. Korea could give themselves an opening here if he does walk up the ramp, and he's going to think better about it.
It's all bait. It's all bait. You know Kongye likes to get aggressive early. Juhan's trying to be like, hey, you can 1v1 me, right? But that's too obvious. They're not going to fall for that one. Yeah, I am curious about how this 2v2 was going to go early on in the game because Juhan and Bei have not necessarily been tested against the best of the best, and this week it's starting to... We're going to start to finally see that here. And on the J-Team side, I think J-Team, their goal is to firmly maintain control of the top 3 position, right? Because right now, the other J-Teams, if you will, the Deep Cross Gaming, the CFO, those are the squads that are looking a little bit better than you. But if you can establish dominance over a team like PSG and keep your third place position, things start to look pretty good for the second round robin as Driver runs straight into Hanabi, maybe going a little bit deep here, but he could set Juhan behind, and he might just do that.
Yeah, we have seen this play from so many different top laners. It's basically if you're going up against Gragas that doesn't really do that much level 1, you're pretty happy in just going in there and sort of annoying the jungler. If you force them to get a smite down, that's actually huge for their jungle clear. And we do see here, Juhan is like, I'm not going to take any risk for this. I'm just going to smite it down early. So that is a small win, definitely for Driver, a very common tactic that we see these days.
And it worked out really well when you're trying to slow down a team that wants to get off to an early start, right? Talking about how J-Team are perfectly happy in the late game. Those are small things, but they can compound over time. I do want to see how this bot lane goes because you do look at some of the experience difference in between the AD carries. It's not as stark, but for Kaiwing and Enzo, it doesn't get a whole lot wider than that. And I think the support diff could be a big factor in this game.
Yeah, you are talking about a career support versus someone that just switched over to the position in the previous split. And as you can see, they are getting pushed in quite early on. I don't expect J-Team to prioritize this lane earlier. You can tell by the summer difference that this is going to be a very defensive setup from J-Team. They have that cleanse on the Aphelios. They just want to survive this and make it to the late game. And the question really is for PSG is that how much can they get away? As you can see, Juhan is paying a terrible price for that level 1 sort of invade. As a jungler, you really want to use that smite on the big raptor rather than the red buff.
Feels bad, man, but maybe Juhan can make up for it by getting a play off early on. The question is, where does he focus, right? Does he want to make the long trek up to top lane and try and shut down Driver? Well, does that really do anything for your team? Because Hanabi is not necessarily there to try and win a lane. Bot's already pushed in. Mid, I mean, good luck ganking an Orianna. It feels like he doesn't have a lot of good choices right now.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be an issue. I think the Ahri is definitely the lane that you want to focus on the most. Ahri has traditionally been sort of a counter to Orianna because you can just E-flash her, and there's not much that the Orianna can do to respond to that. She doesn't have a gap closer on herself, so it's very difficult for her to play safely against that. However, I do think that in earlier levels, it is possible for the Orianna to actually push this lane in. I just feel like Uniboy is actually just trying to play a little bit safer here. And he's getting pushed in because of, I would assume, the minion dematerializer doing work earlier on. But
he's got to protect his KDA, man. He hasn't died in the wins.
Exactly. No, we have a saying for Uniboy in the past that he definitely likes to play with balls. All of his champions that use balls and spheres, like the Orianna, the Syndra, and the Zoe, have been absolutely excellent.
He should know Ahri then. He should know how to play against Ahri.
That's true. She kind of uses spheres as well.
Yeah, not exclusively, right? Like, Ahri doesn't, only use spheres and balls. She also throws hearts and little will-o'-the-wisps and things like that. But, she's a fox spirit. They like to mix it up a bit.
Yeah, you got to keep everyone guessing right there. And take a look at the top lane. This is a lane where we actually have seen Hanabi do very well in, especially with the kind of setup that he's running here, the grasp. You can see him sitting on a very comfortable CS lead, and he has gone for the tier in the past, as a 2v2.
I think Gongye actually ended up getting the better of that because Uniboy comes in to try and help secure. A little bit of counter jungling with Juhan trying to make up for his earlier start. However, this will lead into a moment that they can grab an early dragon. And, I do like this priority. PSG have actually been pretty solid at picking up the dragons in their game. Currently, they're sitting at about 2.3, 2.4 dragons per game. It's about 4th place in the league. And J-Team is one of the squads that do a little bit better than them, actually. And it does roughly correlate with who's winning and who's not, let's be honest. But Dragon Priority is something that, teams aren't always going for when you want to trade, you want a handshake for the Herald instead. PSG are a team that do like to focus on that bottom side.
Yeah, I think you made a great point that in terms of statistics, Herald is actually much more indicative of how well an early game is going compared to the first Drake. That's been true since the previous season for sure, but it is still true now, even with the addition of the Hextech Drakes. On paper they provide a lot of power, but the calculus is still more or less the same in that regard. In terms of this early game, what I'm really looking for is at least a 3-kill advantage towards PSG. I feel like if they don't get that, a lot of these champions they sort of descale themselves into the late game. If you're thinking about Ahri, she really has this sort of need to be a huge damage threat in order to access the majority of her power locked into those resets coming in from Spirit Rush. And the same thing goes for the Gragas. Like, if he doesn't get sort of ahead of his opposition, he can't just get run down in lane. And Lee Sin is kind of the same thing. So I think for now, even though PSG holds on to the gold lead, they still need the kills. The kills are really going to be necessary to kind of propel this composition forward.
Yeah, and I think you also need to try and get the kills for resets onto Unified, right? You want to be able to build up a consistent gold lead that then turns into an item lead because a Jinx that pops off does so much. The only difference between her and the champions you mentioned, though, is like Jinx can always come in and make a play, but it gets a lot harder when you're in the late game and you just have been starved. On the other hand, Unified has picked up a very healthy CS lead over Lil V, but you did mention we kind of expected this lane to be pushed in, this lane to go a little hard. And until junglers intervene, that's probably not liable to change. But all eyes are going to be on PSG, especially in that mid, to see if they can pick up some kills early on. However, Kongye is taking a trip down bottom.
Yeah, but we also have Bey just constantly poking towards the bottom side. I absolutely love this from mid lane players. If you're not in the lane, you just want to disappear from vision and put a lot of pressure elsewhere. But I would say in terms of like the game tempo overall, I'm a little bit surprised that Juhan has not attempted a single gank so far. That's a big question mark for me. Basically, you let Kongyue kind of free scale to level 6, and in terms of the first skirmish potential, J-Team are definitely packing heat in this one. I don't think PSG actually has a sizable advantage when it does come to those early game skirmishes. And, that just means that if they want to set up something that is going to be more decisive, they're going to have a lot of vision control. I fully expect them to kind of shift the bot lane towards the top Herald in order to find a play.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to, because this has been a little bit of a slow start for a team that wants to be able to build up that lead. And, sure, Hanabi's been able to stop Driver from doing a whole lot to his tower. Bey has been threatening, but not actually executing anywhere on the map, and Unified's got a healthy lead. But you're right, it's not enough for the way that they've built this composition right now. So we need to see a play happening. Surprised Juhan hasn't made a visit. Now the pings go down on the bottom side. It looks like we might be in for a dive as they look to set up vision control. This isn't spotted here by Enzo and Lil V, and they have to know something's happening. That's going to be the setup. It should force them off, even if the dive doesn't go through. This is going to be plates, but you'd think they would much rather prefer to secure up a kill.
A really good timing coming in from PSG here. Like, they know the TP isn't done. Oh, but Juhan's showing a little bit too early.
Yeah, he could get caught. Safeguard does go through, and he does still get knocked up, but he's out at this point. So, at the end of the day, it's just a plate, really. Burned, and Driver goes for the big dive on the bottom, and that is going to be the tournament of the belly bump in first blood. He heals just enough through it to secure it for J-Team.
Absolutely beautiful. Has that extra combat summoner to close the gap, and he knows where the opponent jungler is. I feel like PSG, they found a good timing, but they didn't move their pieces as well as they could have. I actually felt like they could have left lane a lot earlier in that situation. There was no chance that Uniboy is chasing an Ahri. He didn't really need to full push the wave, and this has kind of been my criticism for PSG's like mid jungle. I feel like at times they don't play aggressive enough with the tools that they're given here. That was a great timing. Uniboy still didn't have his TP. Juhan was already in position. I really think that Bei, if he just moved a little bit earlier, could have made that bottom lane trade. And, you know, Hanabi, this is honestly on him. He knows his jungler is showing, but he was way too far forward.
Yeah, Driver knew exactly what to do at this point. Did end up getting flash for flash, nice belly bump, but it was never going to be enough with the heal up at the end. PSG do manage to secure Herald, though. So, you know, neutral objective-wise, they're doing all right, but that's not really what you want when you built a team for some of these earlier skirmishes, as they now complete the swap up to top side, looking for Driver, not going to find him, so it just ends up being a plate trade.
Yeah, this is actually really well done in terms of the laning situation. As you see in the top side, PSG has this wave already shoved to tower, while J-Team are just now hitting the tower. So they're going to get a massive tempo advantage, and I wouldn't be surprised if PSG just go for a second Herald Charger. They should be able to with very minimal trouble.
So this is going to get traded, at least for the one tower, by Kongye and Lil V, until Hanabi is able to peel them off of it, and critically, I thought this actually might be a worse trade for PSG because the Dragon was being started by Kongye, but he peels off it immediately when he realizes the trade is happening, and all of a sudden everything comes up PSG. That's a big gold swing in their favor. They should be able to get away for free. Still no kills in this game, though, and you got to wonder just a little bit, you know, is the gold share coming across? I mean, a lot of it was picked up by Unified. That's critical, but he's still not sitting on a Mythic just yet.
I would say that's massive coming in from Unified to get a Mythic this early. All of the turret gold was shared between Juhan and Unified, so that's just going to mean that they can roll into the Drake pit right now without having serious challenge, I think, from J-Team. They are sitting on a pretty big gold spike. If you look at the items, that's Juhan with the Gore Drinker, that's Gale Force and the Berserker Greaves completed already for Unified, so they should be taking this Drake with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and this is something that J-Team knows is happening, but it should go pretty quickly. Enzo looks to try and interrupt, but I think he's just going to go ahead and slam down that ward, and J-Team a little bit slow to react. Gale Force has been matched, by the way, for Lil V, but yeah, just not enough, and of course there's a boot diff as well. And we have got a Hex Gate Rift going on right now. This is going to be a whole lot of fun mobility. I really love this one. Uniboy. Oh no, Uniboy. Oh no, the bait, the trap. Oh, the kick, the dive. Uniboy is trying to walk it out, but Bay says not today. Oh, one more hit, Sully. The bait can't get it. Kongye saves his life.
That was unfortunate for Juhan. He doesn't get the kick off to go correctly. The direction actually sent Uniboy back to his own base. I think Uniboy flashed just in time to get the angle there. But that just means PSG lose a lot of their momentum. They were actually threatening both mid lane and bot lane at the same time, but J-Team just come up with the better play. Uniboy, great work there.
Yeah, Uniboy definitely hanging tough, and Kongye able to help by turning it back his way, picks up a kill for himself on the carry jungler. So, as it stands, neutral objectives in PSG's favor, 2 towers to 0, as well as 2 dragons to 0, but J-Team, 2 kills to nothing.
Yeah, this is a weird position because I don't think at this point J-Team are even afraid to take the 5v5 if it does come down to a Drake Gambit. So, for me, what PSG have to do is they have to continue to snowball Unified. He is the strongest point on the map right now. He is very far ahead of his gold, and they should just try to play towards that lane and make sure that they can continue to snowball. If he gets to a 2-item spike before Lil V can do anything, then I think they have an iron grasp on that Drake that's coming up. They have a very quick Drake timer. It's 8 minutes, and it's going to be a 21-minute Hextech Drake Force, which is a Hextech Soul Force, excuse me, which is going to be very detrimental. So J-Team are going to have to contend with that, and right now PSG, they should shift their strategy. I feel like Lee Sin Ari honestly has not worked out for them. They should just focus on Unified, making sure that he always has the item lead.
Yeah, Unified's always a good bet, though. Juhan going to run into Enzo. It looks like we've got ourselves a good old skirmish down here as a lot of knockups and trying to dash away. Lil V actually going to go for it, but Bay just runs out of steam. So does Juhan. Kaiwing Unified on the run. Driver in the front looking to get the chicken off on somebody here as he dashes forward, forcing the flash. Kongye looking to cut him off with the pass, and this is going to be 4-4-0 as Kongye gets the final kill. 6 now in favor of J-Team. They just have the team fighting power.
Outsmarted and outplayed right there. J-Team read PSG like a book. I guess it's not just the casters, but everyone knew that they were going to try and focus on Unified's lane, so they had the pieces waiting for there. Unfortunately for Juhan, he just burned his flash in the previous play. They know they can ambush him quite easily, and he stays around for it. Let's be completely honest. You know, Bay rushes in straight into a Nautilus, gets absolutely nothing done. He gets 3 charges and instantly dies. So unfortunately, the Korean mid-jungle here, I just feel like they didn't really do their due diligence. No walls across the Tri-Ward brush. They actually face-plant into the Nautilus, and this roam from Driver is absolutely beautiful. He doesn't have a top lane tower to worry about. There's nothing for him to actually defend there, and Gragas is not going to take your inhibitor tower. So that was a great move from him. There was absolutely nothing to lose, and he's now sitting 3-0-2.
And it's back to what you're talking about, Clement. If Juhan and Bay on this Lee Sin and Ahri didn't get off to a rolling start, they were going to be not particularly useful in the skirmishes, and look exactly what happened. They kind of got flat-footed there, and they just couldn't get any damage off. They get blown up and deleted. Bay needs gold desperately, so he's going to be on the side lane pushing it in. Just comparing, I mean, like, Uniboy has that late game Orianna in his pocket. He doesn't need the kills, but he's already got his mythic item completed. Bay is just struggling to match in gold, even though he's been even in farm. Meanwhile, Driver is going to get some of that standing gold on the map by taking out top turret finally. And sure, Dragon Timers are great for PSG, but the problem is they're gonna lose the scaling game if they're not careful.
Yeah, I feel like PSG right now, their win conditions have been drastically narrowed. They pretty much have to get this Hextech Drake. That would be my opinion. And the thing is, for J-Team, that's a very easy condition to play around. You have to think about the fact that, you know, if PSG go into the Drake pit and J-Team simply surround and get a full-on ace, that would still be considered a win. Like, they don't have to completely prevent the Drake from going to the enemy team. If they just kill them there and switch over to Baron, that's even a good trade. So I think in most scenarios, you do see J-Team actually coming out ahead there. In terms of the play in the bot lane, I feel like unfortunately PSG got baited by their own vision, but maybe they can take one back.
Maybe they can, but Driver is still able to hang in there. You can't quite burst a Tryndamere down as the rocket comes in, and oh, he's so close, but he stays alive, and Uniboy ensures it with the command protect. Oh my goodness, that's such a feels bad, man, when you're playing an Assassin champion like Ahri. You want that kill. It does buy them enough breathing room to take this Hextech Drake and get onto Soul Point at 17.5 minutes, but oh boy, I mean, PSG, the one objective they can't get is the kills this game.
Yeah, that's still a very good win. I think strategically, tactically, some mistakes there, but PSG strategically still win out. The Hextech Drake, 21 minutes earlier on, is still very powerful, and I think it gives them a lot of opportunities to chase targets down. If you're a Tryndamere and you run up against Juhan and Bay, then you're most likely dead if they can slow you with the Hextech Drake proc. So it's still good from PSG, but it's definitely a little bit worrying that I feel like Ahri she's starting to get to the phase where she's just not dealing enough damage. And this is what we've seen from Ahri's, and the way that LCK has kind of been playing around her is that you really need to snowball her. Her build naturally does not lend itself to a lot of damage. You're going for the Everfrost, that's more of a consistency thing, and you really need to stay ahead of the curve in order to be taking down these targets. Now, PSG, they still have a lot of chances to use these vision gaps and create these like 1-2 punch setups where they just kill one target and snowball from there. I think they've actually been doing a pretty good job at that so far, but it definitely needs to translate.
Yeah, they need to be able to secure something. I think the important thing is just to continue with the plan of feed the Jinx, right? Like, Unified, if they can do nothing but, like, throw out the Charm and try to get a little bit of burst and then feed that over into Unified, that's still a win. He's still a half item ahead of his opposition. And Bay can still sit on the side lane and try to get work done. He just can't really fully delete anybody, so they're going to have to rely on that teleport timing. Now, the push is on here for J-Team. Hanabi looking to go through, but he gets cut off between Kongye and Driver. Meanwhile, the Needlework coming through. Can they turn this into the back line? I don't think they can. Driver already out of this fight here. Or excuse me, Hanabi already out of this fight as Driver is just wreaking havoc, but he is just barely going to run out of health. Finally, Shutdown Gold lands into Bay's pocket with the Foxfire, but it's still a 1-for-1 trade for J-Team.
Yeah, and that was a pretty big summoner trade as well. If you look across the board, PSG, they had to burn 2 flashes just to secure that kill onto Driver, while Driver gets to keep his. So that's a huge detriment in the upcoming Soul fight. You look across the board, like Kylie's not going to have engaged, Unified is missing a heal. They had to flash to get that extra kill, and Hanabi also burned his as he chose a pretty poor path towards defending his tower.
Yeah, that was a little bit iffy there, and I think Hanabi's awareness on the map has not really been all that great this game, letting himself get soloed out by the Tryndamere when his jungler was showing earlier on, now taking kind of a sus position. I wanted to compliment PSG's ward coverage by using the Hex Gates to really get across the map in short order, covering parts of the J-Team jungle. The problem is, they've kind of neglected their own jungle a little bit. You could see that on the bottom side, that was just completely opened up for Driver and Kongye to get into the back.
Exactly, and I think right now PSG, they can only pick up the map that J-Team are not on. At this point, this Tryndamere is a little bit too powerful, so I do like what PSG are doing. They know their top side is being compromised. Juhan's going into bot instead, where we do see this 1-2 punch link up quite often when Juhan or Bei are playing together. They're getting these deep wards down. So I think PSG do have a chance to win this next fight. They have the vision control, and if Juhan can finally get a correct insect off, they could definitely do a lot of damage to the back line, like Lil V. You know, if they can just kick him forward, alley-oop him into a charm, I think that's the way that PSG want to approach this next Drake fight. They're already sitting at 3 Drakes. They definitely want to get the next one, but in terms of summoners, they're at a pretty big deficit, so they need to use their creativity.
That they do. Looking to try and set up a bait, but it hasn't worked so far. Maybe somebody like Kongye is a little bit easier to pick up. Even in the mist, you're happy to get close, but they get a little scared. There's a 4-stack there in the mid lane, and without that mid-tier 1 turret, J-Team can muscle in and set up vision control on the Drake pit. And PSG don't seem super confident that they can take the straight-up 5v5. There's a lot of tools you got to contend with, not only the side flanks, but there's always that Orianna ball. There's always the grouping up in the choke point that punished them before in bot try. J-Team looking to try and start a fight on their own terms. Kaiwing does get clipped. Hanabi, you got to be careful, man. He tried to go that way before. This time he's out to relative safety as he clears away the ward. A lot of pings fly. And it seems like everybody wants the dragon.
Yeah, I think PSG at this point, they're stuck in such a hard position. Maybe they can use the Hex Gate to try and get a steal, but otherwise, well, this is definitely a solution as PSG try to danger the Baron and hopefully pull the enemy off. But if I'm J-Team, I'm actually pretty happy to just let Tryndamere start this one alone. I'm pretty certain that they're willing to just put the 3-man against even potentially the 4-man with the help of the Baron there. So this is a really smart split from J-Team. I think it's the perfect reaction to when somebody is actually trying to fork you with the Baron.
Yeah, not only that, it was kind of an empty threat, right? The moment they sniffed up there, didn't even catch that there was a pink ward inside of the pit, immediately turned back. It's pretty obvious that they're not actually committed to this. It's a free start, and that totally sets back the timer that PSG were hoping to get on this Hextech Dragon Soul. Down to another 4.5 minutes, buys a lot of time as J-Team, again, they favor the late game at this point. The way they built their composition out, they can just keep the pressure on, delay, and PSG are going to have a hard time doing anything about it. The one late game insurance item that they really do seem to have is this Jinx, and, well, Unified, he's not quite 3 items yet, so he's really only sitting on to that slim advantage, most of it coming from a CS lead he accrued early in this game.
Yeah, they had a big advantage in terms of the second item spike for Unified, but unable to find any fights with it. Juhan is setting up a Death Rush. Let's see if he can find anyone.
Okay, Lil V is going to cleanse out of it. Oh, the charm misses. Let's see if they have enough left in the tank to get the kill. The rocket will secure it. That's going to be the start of something. As the teleport comes through, Enzo taken low, forced out of the fight. Meanwhile, Uniboy Kongye in the front. Driver looking to flank round the side. PSG, they might fancy their chances on the Baron now that Lil V is out. But what can J-Team make of it? It looks like they'll just try to cut off the minion wave in the mid lane. I don't know about a fight. It would be a smite back and forth, but J-Team are far ahead enough, and Driver is threatening. Do they have enough tools left here, Clement? Down to 8,000, down to 7.5. This is tense.
3v5. Yeah, this is going to be incredibly close. Great play from Juhan right there, and I feel like PSG are going to use this as a bait to go in and wipe the floor with J-Team.
Yeah, let's see if they can actually get it done. Actually going to try and take him down. The Undying Rage just finally finishes. Unified's able to stay alive, but the Baron is still aggro. J-Team know the jig is up here. And what a hard-earned Baron it was going to be. But PSG managed to secure kills and the objective, critically, the 2 onto the Jinx.
Absolutely huge play from Juhan. I'm a little bit surprised that Lil V actually ventured that far into the lane. Like, if you look at this team, they're very much aware of death brushes. They have 4 sweepers and 1 blue trinket. And somehow Little V still gets caught by that. That's, to me, they were playing a little bit careless there. And I feel like Driver went way too early. It was very obvious for me that the PSG win condition was actually to just turn and kill. They're playing a 5v3. There's really no risk of them losing a team fight, so they're just kind of using that Baron as bait to get even more leverage. And J-Team, the way they should have played that was to threaten to steal rather than go all in. So we'll watch this again. I think unfortunately for Little V, he just got a little bit too complacent because his team was on the top side of the map. Gets caught out right there. Both summoners burn. And even though they nearly miss everything, they do get the kill at the end with the help of Unified.
Yeah, Unified on the Jinx Rocket. Ooh, Enzo flashing the wall, immediately throws the hook, doesn't actually land where he wants it to. And here's the counter collapse. They don't have all 5 members just yet. Got to get away from the needlework. There are the traps out, the Leona ultimate. So, PSG escaped from a bit of a rough situation as they ping back to defend. This is the tough situation with Baron, and being down in the tempo is you still have to kind of play the defensive game. Gold is just about dead even, but they need to secure that outer tower before they can start threatening. The Dragon, of course, coming up in a minute and a half. That's still soul point for them, and they would love to have that to buy themselves more time in this game. And here is the second wave of the push.
This is the Unified show. He's sitting on 3 items right now with his crit done, but he doesn't have a flash. So if J-Team can find that pick, not only are they going to stop this Baron, they're also going to stop the Dragon Soul. That's going to be what we're looking at right here. Can Tryndamere find that Jinx?
Bay? He goes in! He misses the charm at point blank, goes golden, does have the Spirit Burst, all of a sudden it buys the time for J-Team to go for round 2. Driver already down to 1 HP, but he's undying as he takes down Unified. He will give his life for the cause, but that is a worthwhile trade as J-Team now march down the mid lane and force the reaction play from PSG.
That's absolutely huge because that means PSG's main damage dealer is not going to be there as the Drake spawns. I don't think he's going to have enough time to actually get there. Maybe with the Hex Gates it will be possible, but this should give J-Team some very solid timing windows to kind of set up for that eventual Hextech Soul that's coming up.
Yeah, that's massive, and it just feels like Driver's whole mission is to just go deep, get the kill onto the Jinx, and then it doesn't really matter what happens to him after that because he soaks up so many resources and so much CC while he's unkillable. So now J-Team, they're going to have him coming back to the fight a few seconds later. There is still a numbers advantage, and with Unified up, all they need to do is buy these 10 seconds, maybe try to secure a pick. They actually know Kongye is there, but they're letting him think that they don't. As the ward goes down into the pit, J-Team Uniboy Kongye all sniffing around the side. Here comes Driver. Here comes Lil V. It's going to be a straight-up 5v5 unless they get the deletion beforehand. And Clement, this could swing the game.
Yeah, I feel like PSG should play this a lot slower. They actually have more battlefield reset abilities coming from Hanabi, so they should set their ground and just hold on to the explosive cast. If they do that, I actually feel like they're in a very strong position right now. As we've been saying, Unified is still on that 3-item power spike over Little V, so there's a lot more damage coming through with that Jinx compared to the Aphelios. They just need to hold on to their abilities and inch this forward.
An elegant Dragon Dance here, and Kongye around the side to start things up. Kaiwing caught up, but they've actually been able to stiff arm him for the time being. Dragon, though, looking to go down here. They might be able to get the smite off. However, the fight is the focus. Bay taken low. Meanwhile, into the back. Here goes Driver, looking to delete one. The steal comes through, and Juhan steals the soul away. Can they take the fight, though? There's the explosive cast onto Little V, trying to limp away the flash. The belly dash, and there we go. Hanabi is going to get the kill credit. J-Team are the ones that are sent home. Killless and Dragonless. PSG with the swing.
Yeah, I like the idea there, but I'm a little bit confused as why they executed the flank with their jungler in Kongye. That definitely should have been Driver. Driver could have achieved the same result and secured the Drake with the smite there. You can see that PSG were very hesitant on going to finish off the Drake because they didn't have their jungler. Their jungler was sitting in the front line, and Juhan saw that perfectly. He just went in and smited it away. There was no contest there. So I like the idea of forcing PSG away, but the member they did it with was a little bit confusing. Kongri, remember, he's the guy with the smite right now. So with him being in the front line, JT, they can't even finish off the objective. They're like, where do we go? What do we do? Juhan is right there. If we don't finish off the Hex Drake, then, you know, then Gwen is kind of not sacrificing herself for nothing. And it allows Hanabi to even use his explosive cast offensively. So just kind of a puzzling fight there from J-Team. I felt like J-Team, they could have given up ground towards the Drake and then looked for a full-on surround to try and play that. But they just kind of went for a very puzzling kind of a two-headed strategy without the smite on the Drake.
Yeah, it seems so weird that they focused their attention on keeping the aggro going when clearly the attention was turning towards the fight. And, you know, credit to PSG for keeping their heads in that situation. I mean, realizing that all you had to do is keep Driver busy. Bay was able to dash out of harm's way just barely. And that was the other thing, is the focus was on Bay, not on the Unified by Driver. And then Juhan just, I mean, it's kind of the freest smite steal that he was going to be able to get. And as a result, PSG, they get Soul, they get 2 kills, and they get the tempo advantage. And even though the scaling goes in favor of J-Team, PSG should be feeling themselves in a 5v5. And, you know, it's very heavy tank builds coming in for the non-carry members as well. As long as Bay can land the charm, honestly, he can kind of just line up the kills for Unified. And we have seen Jinx's pretty much solo pop off and carry a game. And he may only have the 3 items for now, but I have a feeling that's about to change.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the case here. And we have Unified sitting at the only member over 300 CS. He's been
there we go, Guardian Angel.
Oh, and yeah, Driver's just not going to have the same impact. I think J-Team really need to map out these team fights a little bit better. We have seen this kind of as a constant weakness for J-Team, is the way that they play team fights seems very misguided at times, and they do have communication breakdowns. J-Team either needed to send Driver in, finish off the Drake in the last team fight, or they needed to go all in. Like, they basically chose kind of a middle route with no upsides whatsoever. So we'll see how they tackle the next one, but what we have to remember now is that the situation has changed, I think, into the advantage for PSG. They have a much stronger front-to-back team fight. Hanabi is completely scaled up. He has that Fimbulwinter already, though. He can't take free damage like that. That's a little bit over.
You gotta be a little careful. I think, though, the solution to J-Team's team fighting problems might be to not do them, because Driver decided to build a Hullbreaker as his 3rd item.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the...
the late Hullbreaker. Don't see that as often. It's usually a premeditated strategy. And it is a big Tryndamere item, but it is odd that this is the point in the game he builds it.
The problem with the late Hullbreaker is, your opponent is running TP, so they still have the ability to match in most instances and still be there for team fights. While it's just kind of a faster push for you, but it's not really that much faster compared to just another offensive item here. So it's an interesting choice, but as we have seen for the most times, you really want to get that split pushing done early, crush your lane, and then have a massive padded advantage against a teleporting tank. So it's a lot less common here. I think what they're relying on right now is a lot more on this Gwen, actually. So the Gwen is going to have a lot of impact still into the back line, and because she does mainly magic damage, she's going to be less countered coming in from this GA. Still can be able to output a lot of damage, but if I'm PSG, I'm just willing to rush forward.
Yeah, they do land onto Kongi. The kickback into sideways, actually landing on Enzo here. The charm, again, just doesn't connect. Bay has had a hard time hitting those all the same. PSG, they're the ones making the moves, but the counterplay looks to come through here as J-Team lead the charge down. No Baron anymore. Hasn't been for a little while now, and Elder is going to be on the menu in another minute, so J-Team have to be careful not to lose a member. As Driver, of course, as a Tryndamere, he can usually get out of situations he shouldn't be allowed to, but you don't want to unnecessarily give up your ultimate before what could be a big objective fight.
In terms of the fork, the Elder is always going to take priority here, as, ooh, they find Hanabi.
Okay, dash into the barrel. They actually have the hook on Leona. This is going to be forcing the fight as the Shockwave pulls in two. And here we go. Kongye on the front, Driver on the side. They take down Hanabi, and this could be the clash with the counter turn into Driver once again into the Undying Rage. Does he have enough damage to finish off Bay? Root damage? No, not there. And they're still going on this one. Enzo, though, bites off more than he could chew. And while Bay stays alive, the trade onto the support for Hanabi's life makes it a 4v4.
Yeah, that was unnecessary from Enzo, actually. He just kind of gave up his life there. Didn't really need to throw out that last dredge line. And I think, crucially, that's all of the vision on J-Team. They didn't have time to do a reset here. So PSG has a great opportunity to just set up these visions. And, you know, we haven't seen a lot of charm lands, but the threat is definitely still there. You have to walk through all of these brushes. Exactly. Only one charm is enough to get them this Elder.
Okay, so Elder is going to be starting right now with the 4v4. Enzo still 5 seconds off cooldown with no teleport. Hanabi does have his and should be joining the fight as soon as he's able.
Here goes Bay.
Bay does land the one charm. Oh, Driver! Okay, so they turn, but he peels away. The teleport comes through onto the minion of all things. They didn't have a ward where they wanted it, but it's a dangerous lane, and actually that's going to threaten the rest of J-Team. They're going to have to hope for a smite fight, but Gwen can't hop the wall the way Elise Sin can. This is just going to be seeded away, and PSG pick up the dragon by holding J-Team at bay.
Yeah, that was really smart macro play coming in from them. I love the positioning that Bay got there. If he landed that Everfrost, which, let's be honest, he definitely should have landed that Everfrost, that would have been absolutely disastrous from J-Team. I think they would have lost Driver. Huh? Sure.
Yeah, you know,
I'll take that.
Don't get anywhere near. Yeah, I mean, look, it's working at the end of the day. PSG finding themselves not so far behind in the gold game, but just slowly losing out and not able to find kills. Finally get a handful of fights, take advantage of unforced errors on the J-Team side, and just, I mean, they are going for objective domination, right? They've given up 3 towers, 1 dragon, and no other neutral objectives on the map.
Yeah, I feel like J-Team, there's a number of things that went wrong for them. Number one, I feel the third and the fourth Drake just going over to PSG was a little bit sus, in my opinion. Those were definitely strategical outplays coming in from PSG. On the other hand, I don't think J-Team has utilized their split pushers enough. They've had a long time where Driver was dominating. Remember, this guy started the game with a 3-0-2 stat line. He was absolutely massive. He could go anywhere, and he wasn't even going for the normal yellow trinket because he was so far ahead. They didn't get to use that sort of a split push timing window whatsoever. And now they're dealing with an extremely fed Unified. And this is one of the first fights that Unified actually has both of his summoners there as well. So I think PSG is doing the absolute smartest of plays possible, just trying to do a straight-up siege. In siege situations, it's much harder for J-Team to flank you. The angle of engage is very narrow, and I just feel like J-Team have to give up these towers. They don't really have an angle of attack here.
No, and maybe they can try for the counter engage if it's an overpush, but ooh, that reset Unified right on the front line, and he's just threatening, forcing the defensive dredge line out of Enzo. This is going to be wash, rinse, repeat. Look at how much damage they shred these towers down to his Unified just kind of runs wild, and J-Team, they're the ones that are just losing ground time and time again, and you talked about them not using their window. They really let that one slide as the big rocket comes in to push them off the turrets. Kongye trying to save the day, but it doesn't seem to be enough here as the last of the Nexus turret's going to fall. Driver into the back line. He may have the Undying Rage, but he's going to get charmed for days as down he will sooner or later go. Uniboy falls as well. Nobody left to defend here with Kongye going into the stasis for the final time and Lil V fountain sitting right here. That is going to be GG as PSG Talon clean up.